Welcome to Scarify, where chilling tales lurk in the shadows and the only thing scarier than our stories is missing out on them. Subscribe now to join the Scarify family and embrace the thrill of the unknown. Story 1. The Haunting of Blackwood Manor. The wind howled through the trees, sending leaves scuttling across the ground like frightened animals. It was a dark and stormy night, the kind that sent shivers down your spine, and I found myself standing before the looming facade of Blackwood Manor. The mansion had always been a source of fascination and dread in our small town. It was a relic of a bygone era, a sprawling estate that had stood for centuries, its history shrouded in mystery and whispers of the supernatural. As I approached the wrought iron gates that marked the entrance to the estate, I couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. The mansion stood in stark contrast to the surrounding countryside, its dark stone walls and towering spires a testament to its grandeur and its secrets. I had been drawn to the stories of Blackwood Manor for as long as I could remember. Tales of ghostly apparitions, inexplicable phenomena, and a curse that had plagued the Blackwood family for generations had captivated my imagination. On this fateful night, I had decided to venture into the heart of the mystery, armed with little more than a flashlight and my insatiable curiosity. The storm that raged overhead seemed to be a warning, but I pressed on, driven by a need to uncover the truth. As I crossed the threshold of the mansion's gates, the air grew colder, and the wind whispered secrets that I strained to hear. The path leading to the mansion was overgrown with weeds and thorns, as if nature itself had reclaimed this place. The mansion's facade was a haunting sight, its windows like empty eyes staring out into the night. The front door, weathered and worn, creaked open with a sense of foreboding as I pushed it aside. I stepped into a grand foyer, the air heavy with the scent of age and decay. Cobwebs hung from the ornate chandeliers, and dust motes danced in the beam of my flashlight. It was a place frozen in time, a relic of a forgotten era. As I ventured further into the mansion, the shadows seemed to come alive, twisting and writhing like specters. The sound of my footsteps echoed through the empty halls, each one a reminder of the mansion's once grand past. I began to explore room by room, each one revealing a different facet of the mansion's history. The dining room was adorned with a long-forgotten feast, its dishes covered in a layer of dust. The library was filled with books that had not been touched in decades, their pages yellowed and brittle. It was in the drawing room that I first encountered the presence that lurked within Blackwood Manor. As I entered the room, a chill ran down my spine, and the air seemed to grow thick with a malevolent energy. I shone my flashlight around the room, searching for the source of my unease. And then, I saw her, a ghostly figure, her form ethereal and indistinct. She wore a flowing white gown that seemed to glow in the darkness. The figure's eyes locked onto mine, and I could feel her gaze pierce through my very soul. She beckoned to me with a ghostly hand, her expression one of sorrow and longing. I tried to speak, to ask who she was and why she haunted this place, but no words came out. The figure continued to beckon, and I couldn't resist the pull of her presence. I followed her through the mansion, each step leading me deeper into the heart of the mystery. The figure led me to a hidden chamber, a place that seemed untouched by the ravages of time. In the center of the chamber stood an ornate mirror, its surface polished to a high sheen. As I approached, I could see my reflection staring back at me, but it was not my own reflection that held my attention. In the mirror, I saw the figure standing beside me, her hand outstretched as if she were trying to reach through the glass. I reached out to touch the mirror, and as my fingers made contact with the cold surface, I felt a surge of energy. The world around me began to shift and change, and I found myself standing in a different time, a time when Blackwood Manor was alive with activity and the figure beside me was flesh and blood. I was transported to a grand ballroom, the air filled with the sound of music and laughter. The room was filled with elegantly dressed guests, swirling in a dance that seemed to transcend time itself. The figure beside me was no longer a ghostly apparition but a living, breathing woman. She was young and beautiful, her eyes filled with a sense of joy and anticipation. As I watched, I realized that I was not a passive observer but a participant in this scene. I was a guest at the Blackwood family's grand ball, and the woman beside me was my dance partner. We moved together in perfect harmony, the world around us fading into the background. It was a moment of pure magic, a glimpse into a time when Blackwood Manor was filled with life and happiness. But as the music swelled to a crescendo, the scene shifted once again, and I found myself back in the present. The figure beside me was once again a ghostly presence, her eyes filled with a profound sadness. I knew then that she was the key to unlocking the mystery of Blackwood Manor, that her story held the answers I sought. I needed to uncover the truth, to understand the curse that had plagued this place for generations. With the figure as my guide, I delved deeper into the mansion's history, uncovering secrets that had long been buried. I learned of a tragic love affair, a betrayal that had torn the Blackwood family apart and led to a curse that still lingered to this day. As I pieced together the puzzle of the mansion's past, I could feel a malevolent force closing in around me. The shadows seemed to come alive, and I could hear whispers on the wind, as if the very walls themselves were trying to keep their secrets hidden. But I was determined to uncover the truth, to break the curse that had plagued Blackwood Manor for so long. I knew that the figure beside me was the key, and I would not rest until I had set her free. The final confrontation with the malevolent force that dwelled within the mansion was a battle unlike anything I had ever experienced. It fought back with a fury that was both terrifying and awe-inspiring, summoning the very darkness of the mansion to do its bidding. But I had the figure beside me, her presence a source of strength and determination. Together, we confronted the malevolent force, unraveling the curse that had held Blackwood Manor in its grip for centuries. As the curse was broken, the mansion seemed to sigh with relief, its walls no longer haunted by the ghosts of the past. The figure beside me smiled, her eyes filled with gratitude, and then she faded away, her presence finally at peace. I left Blackwood Manor that night, my heart heavy with the weight of the mansion's history. But I also left with a sense of closure, knowing that I had helped to set the spirits of the past free. The mansion stood silent and still behind me, its secrets finally laid to rest. And as I walked away, I couldn't. Story 2. The Cursed Amulet. It was a gloomy autumn day when I first laid eyes on the amulet, a twisted piece of dark metal adorned with an ominous crimson gem. The amulet had been discovered by a group of archaeologists during an excavation in a remote corner of the world, and its eerie presence sent shivers down the spines of all who gazed upon it. As a journalist with a penchant for the supernatural and a curiosity that often got the better of me, I was drawn to the amulet like a moth to a flame. The rumors surrounding it were as chilling as they were intriguing, a cursed relic said to hold the power to grant unspeakable wishes but at a terrible cost. The amulet had a dark history, one that spanned centuries. It was said to have been created by a malevolent sorcerer who had harnessed the power of dark forces to craft it. The gem at its center was rumored to contain the trapped souls of those who had dared to use it, their anguished cries echoing through the ages. The archaeologists had uncovered the amulet in an ancient tomb, nestled among the bones of those who had perished in its wake. It was a discovery that sent shockwaves through the academic community, but none could deny the eerie aura that seemed to emanate from the cursed artifact. I knew that I had to investigate further, to uncover the truth behind the amulet's legend. Armed with a sense of trepidation and a desire for the unknown, I set out to track down the amulet and those who had come into contact with it. My journey led me to a small, remote village nestled in the shadow of an ancient, gnarled forest. The villagers spoke in hushed tones about the amulet, their eyes filled with fear and reverence. They warned me of the curse that clung to it, of the darkness that it could unleash. But I was undeterred. I had come too far to turn back now, and I was determined to uncover the secrets of the amulet, no matter the cost. My search led me to an elderly woman named Alara, a recluse who lived on the outskirts of the village. She was rumored to be the last surviving member of the archaeological team that had unearthed the amulet, and I hoped that she could shed some light on its history. Alara lived in a ramshackle cottage, its walls adorned with strange symbols and warding charms. She greeted me with a cautious smile, her eyes filled with a mixture of curiosity and wariness. As we sat in her dimly lit living room, she began to recount the events that had unfolded since the discovery of the amulet. She spoke of strange occurrences, objects moving on their own, eerie whispers in the dead of night, and a sense of foreboding that seemed to hang over the entire village. But it was the amulet itself that held the most sinister secrets. Alara revealed that the gem at its center was said to hold the power to grant any wish, no matter how impossible. It was a seductive offer, one that had tempted each member of the archaeological team in turn. One by one, they had succumbed to the allure of the amulet, making their wishes with a mixture of desperation and hope. But as their wishes were granted, they began to change, their once vibrant spirits turning dark and twisted. Alara spoke of her colleagues' descent into madness, of their increasing obsession with the amulet and the terrible deeds they committed in its name. The amulet had granted their wishes, but at a terrible cost, their souls. As the last surviving member of the team, Alara had become the guardian of the amulet, tasked with protecting it from falling into the wrong hands. She spoke of the nightmares that plagued her every night, of the voices that whispered in her ear, urging her to use the amulet's power. But she had resisted, knowing that to do so would damn her soul for all eternity. She implored me to leave the village and forget about the cursed artifact, to save myself from the same fate that had befallen her colleagues. But I couldn't. The amulet had already ensnared me with its dark allure, and I knew that I had to see it for myself, to witness the power that it held. Alara reluctantly agreed to show me the amulet, and as she brought it forth, I could feel a malevolent energy radiating from it. The gem seemed to pulse with a sinister light, and I could hear faint whispers emanating from its depths. I couldn't resist the urge to touch it, to feel the power that it held. As my fingers brushed the cold metal, a rush of dark energy surged through me, and I felt a sense of euphoria unlike anything I had ever experienced. I knew then that I had to make a wish, to harness the amulet's power for myself. The possibilities were endless, and I could feel the desires of my heart and mind clamoring for attention. But as I made my wish, a sense of dread washed over me. I could feel the amulet's power coursing through me, and I knew that I had made a terrible mistake. My wish had been granted, but the cost was far greater than I could have ever imagined. The darkness within the amulet had taken hold of me, twisting my soul and filling me with a malevolent hunger. I could feel the darkness growing stronger with each passing day, its influence seeping into every corner of my being. I had become a slave to the amulet's power, a pawn in its sinister game. As I looked into the mirror, I saw the reflection of a stranger, a creature of darkness and despair. The amulet had consumed me, and there was no escape from its malevolent grip. I knew then that I had to find a way to break free from the curse, to rid myself of the amulet's influence once and for all. But the darkness was relentless, and I could feel it closing in around me. My search for answers led me to a remote monastery high in the mountains, a place of ancient wisdom and secrets. The monks who lived there spoke of a ritual, a way to cleanse the soul and break free from the curse of the amulet. But the ritual was perilous, and its success was far from guaranteed. I knew that I had no other choice, that I had to try to free myself from the darkness that had consumed me. As I embarked on the ritual, I could feel the amulet's power fighting back, its malevolent energy surging through me in a final bid for control. The battle that followed was a battle of wills, a test of strength and determination. But with the guidance of the monks and the strength of my own spirit, I was able to overcome the darkness and break free from the curse of the amulet. The gem shattered into 1,000 pieces, its power dissipating into the ether. I left the monastery a changed person, forever scarred by the experience. The amulet had nearly claimed my soul, and I knew that I had been given a second chance at life. Story 3. The Haunting of Hollowbrook House. Hollowbrook House had always been a place of legend in our small town. Perched on a hill at the edge of the woods, the old mansion had stood for centuries, its dark history and ominous presence casting a long shadow over the surrounding countryside. The legends surrounding Hollowbrook House were as chilling as they were numerous. Tales of ghostly apparitions, inexplicable phenomena, and a curse that had plagued the Hollowbrook family for generations had captivated the imaginations of the townsfolk for as long as anyone could remember. As a young and adventurous soul, I had always been drawn to the stories of Hollowbrook House. The lure of the unknown and the thrill of the supernatural called out to me like a siren's song. So, on a moonless night in late October, I found myself standing before the towering gates of the mansion, armed with nothing but a flashlight and my insatiable curiosity. The wind rustled through the trees, sending leaves skittering across the ground like frightened animals. The air was heavy with a sense of foreboding, and the very earth seemed to hold its breath as I approached the wrought iron gates. With a sense of trepidation and excitement, I pushed the creaking gates open, their rusty hinges protesting the intrusion. The path leading to the mansion was overgrown with weeds and thorns, as if nature itself had tried to reclaim this forsaken place. As I made my way up the hill, the mansion came into view, a looming, shadowy presence against the night sky. Hollowbrook House was a testament to a bygone era, its dark stone walls and towering turrets a reminder of the grandeur that had once defined it. I had heard the stories, the strange happenings that occurred within the mansion's walls, the eerie whispers on the wind, and the malevolent force that seemed to inhabit the place. But I was undeterred. I had come to uncover the truth, to experience the supernatural firsthand. As I crossed the threshold of the mansion's grand entrance, the air grew colder, and the very atmosphere seemed to thicken with a palpable sense of malevolence. Dust motes danced in the beam of my flashlight, and cobwebs hung like funeral drapes from the ornate chandeliers. The mansion's interior was a maze of dark, twisting corridors and decaying chambers. It was a place frozen in time, a relic of a forgotten era. The wallpaper peeled from the walls in tattered strips, and the grand ballroom was adorned with a long-forgotten feast, its dishes covered in a thick layer of dust. With each step I took, I could feel the eyes of the past upon me, as if the very walls themselves held the memories of the mansion's dark history. It was a history that I was determined to uncover. As I ventured deeper into the mansion, the shadows seemed to come alive, shifting and writhing like specters in the darkness. The air grew heavy with the weight of the supernatural, and I could hear faint whispers on the wind, as if the very house itself were trying to communicate with me. I pressed on, my heart pounding with each step, until I reached a chamber unlike any other, a room bathed in an eerie, ethereal light. At its center stood a massive, ornate mirror, its surface polished to a high sheen. I couldn't tear my gaze away from the mirror, its reflection drawing me in like a moth to a flame. As I approached, I could see my own reflection staring back at me, but it was not my own reflection that held my attention. In the mirror, I saw a figure standing beside me, a ghostly apparition, its form ethereal and indistinct. It was a woman, her eyes filled with a deep sadness that seemed to reach into the very depths of my soul. The figure reached out to me with a ghostly hand, its touch sending a shiver down my spine. I could feel a connection between us, a sense of longing and sorrow that transcended time and space. I tried to speak, to ask the figure who she was and why she haunted this place, but no words came out. Instead, the figure's voice filled my mind, a haunting melody of whispers and echoes. She spoke of a tragic love affair, a betrayal that had torn the Hollowbrook family apart and led to a curse that still lingered to this day. She told me of the anguish and torment that had befallen the mansion's inhabitants, their souls trapped in a never-ending cycle of suffering. As I listened to the figure's tale, I realized that I had become a part of the curse, that my presence in the mansion had awakened the malevolent force that dwelled within its walls. The figure implored me to leave, to escape the mansion's grasp before it was too late. But I couldn't tear myself away. The allure of the supernatural, the need to uncover the truth, was too strong. I knew that I had to delve deeper into the mansion's history, to uncover the secrets that had been hidden for so long. With the figure as my guide, I delved deeper into the mansion's dark past, piecing together the puzzle of the curse that had plagued the Hollowbrook family for generations. I learned of the forbidden love that had torn them apart, of the betrayal that had led to a vengeful spirit's curse. As I delved deeper into the past, I could feel the malevolent force closing in around me, its anger and hunger for vengeance growing stronger with each step. But I pressed on, determined to break the curse and free the tormented souls that had been trapped for so long. The final confrontation with the malevolent force that dwelled within the mansion was a battle unlike anything I had ever experienced. It fought back with a fury that was both terrifying and awe-inspiring, summoning the very shadows of the mansion to do its bidding. But I had the figure beside me, her presence a source of strength and determination. Together, we confronted the malevolent force, unraveling the curse that had held Hollowbrook House in its grip for centuries. As the curse was broken, the mansion seemed to sigh with relief, its walls no longer haunted by the ghosts of the past. The figure beside me smiled, her eyes filled with gratitude, and then she faded away, her presence finally at peace. I left Hollowbrook House that night, my heart heavy with the weight of the mansion's history. But I also left with a sense of closure, knowing that I had helped to set the spirits of the past free. The mansion stood silent and still behind me, its secrets finally laid to rest. And as I walked away, I couldn't help but wonder about the fate of the cursed artifact. The amulet's power had been vanquished, but I knew that it would always be out there, waiting to ensnare the unwary and the curious alike.